The Miami Hurricanes are 3-0, have risen to number 8 in the polls, and have the leader in the race for the Heisman Trophy on their team at quarterback. It's not a bad start to the season, Canes fans, but isn't everybody waiting today for a real test? I know I find myself wondering now after seeing these first 3 weeks of Miami Hurricanes football, how good is this Miami team? How good is it really? We haven't seen them against high-end competition yet. The Florida Gators are reeling as expected, and FAMU and Ball State speak for themselves. So now Miami travels to Tampa to play a South Florida team that is favored to lose by 2 touchdowns or more. And that is what with the odds makers even taking into consideration that South Florida battled toe-to-toe with Alabama for 3 quarters on the opening weekend of the season. The Bulls have a dual threat at quarterback, a guy that can throw and run. And they also have a defense that unquestionably is going to come after Cam Ward on Saturday night. The Hurricanes may need more in this game than they have at any point so far this season. But would that be a bad thing? Can you really keep improving and building towards something potentially great and significant at the end of the season without the competition to inspire that improvement? I'm fired up for this trip to Tampa. Are you too? Let's talk about that and more tonight on CaneSport Live. Hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, and we welcome you once again to the People's Show, CaneSport Live. As always, this is your show. It'll be driven by your participation. If you would like to come on the show tonight, you see the email at the bottom. You email us at canesport@yahoo.com. We will send you the link to the studio, and we will bring you on the show in the order that you land in the studio. CaneSport managing editor Matt Shodell is going to be joining me here in a second. We'll be joined later in the show by the voice of the fan, Bruce Warner. And of course, we will be joined by all of you and your participation. So let's get this party started right now. Let's welcome Matt to the show. Matt, welcome back to CaneSport Live. I know you're a little bit of a fish out of water here in the evening instead of in the early morning. But, I talked a moment ago about how significant I think it is that they're playing a little bit of a better team this week. I mean, the Florida game was great, all the buildup. Florida, though, was not very good. And I don't know how great South Florida is going to be, but I don't think that they get anything at all out of playing FAMU and then blowing out Ball State.
I'll just look, these are just facts. I think Florida would be favored against South Florida if they played each other, okay? Everyone wants to say, oh, USF was only down by a point at the end of the third quarter against Alabama. Alabama turned the ball over 3 times in a 12-minute span, and we're still winning. And they scored 28 points and had almost 300 yards in the final 15 minutes. Nobody seems to want to talk on the Miami side about even this past weekend, USF's defense, which is so great, this amazing defense, right? USF against Southern Miss. Southern Miss had 397 passing yards and 90 rushing yards. They almost had Southern Miss almost had 500 offensive yards this past weekend. That's the team Miami's facing with this amazing defense that is as good as Alabama. I get it that Miami, they want to sell that their opponents are amazing, but I mean, seriously, don't pick USF to do that. Maybe try Virginia Tech. Maybe it'll work, even though they lost to Vanderbilt. Maybe try, it'll work with Louisville, but, maybe just try even Georgia Tech. I don't know. They have a good rushing attack. I don't know. But South Florida has one of the worst passing offenses in the country. And we know that Lance Guidry can stop the run when he wants to. It's not that hard when you're bigger, faster, and more physical than the other team, which Miami is. Okay. So unless Byron Brown can look like he looked last year throwing the ball, which he has not this year, Miami's going to run away with this and absolutely kill them. And that's why the line, I think, opened at 18. It would be, 24 if they were at Miami. It probably should be even higher, honestly, except it's a big line to start with. This is not a good opponent. I'm sorry. I know people are aching to say we beat a great team. Like, let's not be fake people and say we beat a great team when it's USF. Like, they're okay, but they'd be a less than middle of the pack ACC team, and they're just not that good. Like, Miami will roll over them. Miami is a really, really good team this year, which is the good part. Like, don't try and hype up the opponents. Just talk about how good Miami is, because that's what matters. And as long as Miami plays clean, crisp football on both sides, that's really all you can ask for. So, my prediction, 48-20, somewhere in there, maybe 52-17. One of those types of games is my prediction. Miami winning, by the way, Gary, in case you weren't paying attention. I know you tend not to do that when I speak.
I tend to agree with you. I'm trying to get fired up, man. It's like, it's great that obviously we're all excited that we have a team that appears to be at the level that it's at this year. I just wish the schedule were a little bit more interesting. I mean, that trip to Louisville in a few weeks, I think, has the potential for a real football game.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Like, Florida State looked so bad to me this past weekend. I can't imagine, that they're going to be able to rally the troops there in Tallahassee. That team looks like it has a culture issue and it is really checked out. I guess the trip to Cal in a couple of weeks could be a little bit interesting, but all in all, I mean, right now, this is not shaping up as the most exciting regular season, other than the fact that they have a great chance to win all these games. So I was kind of thinking maybe South Florida can rise to the occasion like they did at Alabama, and they made that game a lot more interesting than anybody expected. But I guess we will find out on Saturday night.
Well, just to be clear, South Florida's not going to rise to the occasion. If it's a close game, it's because Miami is failing on multiple levels. Okay, they are not competitive at any position with Miami. Miami is better than every South Florida position by a fairly decent margin. So it'll have to be like Alabama. It'll have to be like 3 fumbles. You gift them 4 first downs on penalties, which is what Alabama did. You do stuff like that, you might only win by a touchdown or 10 points. If Miami plays terrible, they win by 10. But I'm anticipating they play as well as they have been. Like, why would they all of a sudden regress like that? It wouldn't make any sense to me.
I think what I'm looking for is competition and a blowout. I would love to see the blowout, and Miami has been playing that level of football, but I would like to see them challenged more, because I don't feel they can get better if they're not. That's just my opinion. I don't know how you're supposed to get better and get to the point where you're going to go and line up against teams like Georgia and Texas at the end of the year and not have the opportunity to have enough competition along the way to get you progressively better. So that's kind of like what I'm thinking. Hope I expressed that properly. But anyway, you guys that are listening out there, if you have any comments that you would like to make, any questions that you would like to ask as the show goes along, please post them in the comments and we will get to them during the show. Like I said, if you would like to come on the show and you haven't already been in touch with us, just email us at CaneSport@yahoo.com and we will send you the link to come on the show. But we're going to get going now to hear what some of you guys have to say. Might as well, for tradition's sake, start out tonight with our man, Greg. Greg, welcome back to CaneSport Live. How you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
We're doing good, man. We're winning.
Yeah. Okay, Matt. Grade or free agents so far this year?
I mean, I expressed before the season that I thought that they were going to be really, really good. And just the fact you use the term free agents, Greg, they're automatically going to be good if they're free agents. If you want me to grade the guys who aren't free agents, those are the guys who get bad grades. Everyone they signed who is a free agent has panned out as they should have, because a free agent by definition, Greg, and you're a CaneSport poster free agent, you're a CaneSport Live free agent. A free agent by definition is somebody who's proven time and time again, like you have for the last 50 decades plus, 50 years plus, that they can get the job done at a very high level at a good program against good opposition, right? That's what you see with basically all these really good free agents, right? Cam Ward played some really good teams and did really well against them. He did well against even Washington last year, I mean, I can go down the list of all of them. Damian Martinez, you can argue, isn't living up to his expectations yet, but that's because he's barely been used. His yards per carry is still fine. He just is waiting on that 15 carry game because he's been a little banged up, But I mean, if you have, Sam Brown, I didn't think was a free agent when they took him, right? So I'm not going to include him as a free agent. Gary thought he was a free agent. I said, I don't think they need him, if you remember correctly. So I'm not going to grade him as a free agent. I still don't think he's a free agent. But I'm trying to think of all the other guys. The defensive linemen, I had Barron as a free agent, 100% as a free agent. I had Barrow and CJ Clark. CJ Clark had as a borderline free agent. I think both of them have been more than good enough, right? I did not have Elijah Alston as a free agent. I had him as like a borderline, coming from Marshall where he was just okay. He's been good enough. Like, I think he's exceeded my expectations. But I don't know how many reps he'll actually play when push comes to shove against a Louisville, for instance. So that remains to be seen. I said Deani Hill wasn't a free agent. He still isn't a free agent in my mind. I said Mish Powell was a free agent. I think Mish Powell has been fantastic. Maybe his stats aren't so great, but his leadership back there, he's always in the right spot. He's a solid player. He's been playing great, even though he's not really noticed that much. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple of other guys that I had as free agents, But yeah, I mean, I'd grade the free agents overall, because I'm a tough grader, an A- instead of an A. All right.
Who's not a free agent? You said Sam Brown's not a free agent. I'm going to argue with you about that in a minute, but go ahead.
Deani. I said Deani Hill. I didn't have as a free agent. I don't have Jalen Alderman as a free agent. I didn't, and I still don't. I had the Marshall defensive lineman, Elijah Alston, as a borderline free agent. And he's been a little better than I thought he would be. He's borderline free agent still, but Zach Carpenter to me, I thought he was like borderline. He hasn't been spectacular to me. He's been okay. He hasn't been tested much, so we'll see. We'll get a better sense of that against Virginia Tech a little bit. That's the other problem is on the offensive line. They've barely allowed any pressures, but they haven't played any talented defensive lines yet. I think the Miami offensive line is great, but it's hard to say anyone's great until you play some really high caliber opposition, and Miami just hasn't really yet. And they weren't able to get a push in the run game at all, really, against Florida, which was a little disheartening. But Florida does have a pretty good defensive line. So there's that. Carpenter. Who are the other ones from this past cycle? I think that's most of them, right?
Yeah, you did. You touched on most of them. Let me jump in here. Sam Brown is a hot button right now, and there's been lots of conversation about him on the message boards, in the Q&As that I do every week. And Sam Brown is a really good football player, and he's proven. But here's the problem that I think he's having, so far this season. He got here late. Okay, so Cam Ward and those receivers were working all spring, during spring practices, after practices, going into the summertime. They had a bond, like Restrepo and Jacoby George and and Isaiah Horton. Like, these guys already built a bond with Cam Ward that Sam Brown probably still doesn't have, and he doesn't have the same connection with Cam Ward have. And Cam Ward is making the decisions pretty much where to go with the football. He's got that type of freedom from Shannon Dawson. And I'm not saying he's discriminating against Sam Brown. Please don't think I'm saying that. That is not the case. I mean, in this last game, we saw Sam Brown get 8 targets and catch 5 balls. So to me, that was a concerted effort to get Sam Brown more involved. Trust me, the coaches have a clear understanding of what Sam Brown potentially can bring to this football team. And along the lines of what I was saying earlier, they are preparing for tougher days down the road. But I think it's important, and I hope it remains an initiative this week, that they get Sam Brown going. It's important for Sam Brown's psyche, because let's be honest. You come to Miami for your final year as a so-called free agent. You're coming here to make a major impact and showcase yourself to the National Football League. Sam Brown hasn't really had the chance to do that yet. And I think it's important for him, for the culture and everything, that they get him going. So I personally hope that remains a big part of the agenda this week.
Let me just share one thing, okay? Because this is important. If you believe that Isaiah Horton is not playing at an elitely high level, then I agree with you that they need to get Sam Brown going. But right now, Sam Brown is just costing Isaiah Horton reps. And every time Isaiah Horton's in there, he's blocking his ass off. He's making big plays in the passing game. He's not getting a lot of reps because of Sam Brown. But like, I love what I've seen from Isaiah Horton. You can shake your head no all you want.
No,
Like
I
Isaiah
love what
Horton,
I've seen from Isaiah Horton too, but there's
Horton is
enough
not-
plays in
Horton-
the game. There's enough.
Horton is
They
not
can-
dropping passes. Horton's their biggest, most physical
There's enough
receiver. Very tall, can go up above cornerbacks. Like, if Sam Brown's going to be the guy that they rely on and he's still dropping passes and that costs them a game, that's on the coaches, man, because Isaiah Horton has really impressed me so far.
You can have more than 3 receivers involved. There's enough to go around.
Last year, they used 80% of the game.
I know, but they have a bigger issue at running back in that regard than they do receiver. All right, Greg, this is supposed to be your show, man. We can sit here. We argue with each other every day.
Right. Okay. Listen, I'm sure Lou Cristobal is a fine young man and he's Mario's nephew. But what does that say about the other linemen that he's recruited who are highly touted? And Lou Cristobal is the first guy off the bench. Where is Tommy Kinsler? Where is Samson Okunlola? Where are these other people? Why is Lou Cristobal an undersized guy from Division, I don't know what, Division 2 or whatever? How is he in the lineup ahead of these other guys? Explain that to me. And my other point is, can somebody please explain to Ray Joseph, you don't feel punts inside the 5-yard line? It's going to cost us. Put Restrepo back there when it's a close game. Yeah. You got to be kidding. You don't feel the punt on the 2-yard line. It's crazy.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And, those are the little things that can fall by the wayside when you're blowing out Ball State by 60 points. You shouldn't be catching the ball at the 2-yard line. Ray Joseph is dying to do something. Okay. So he's doing what he's not supposed to do, and he's catching a punt inside the 2-yard line. But listen, I'm going to answer your Luke. I'm not going to make Matt to take this. I'm going to step up and answer this honestly. Like, Greg, do you have family? Do you have kids?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you have nephews?
I do. I have a lot. Yeah. Okay.
So my question to you would be, do you really need to ask that question? Lou Cristobal, young Lou Cristobal grew up in a family where his father and his uncle, Mario, played for the University of Miami. All he's ever known his whole life is University of Miami. Okay. Tio Mario gets the head coaching job. Lou Cristobal's up at Georgia Southern, I believe it was, and transfers to Miami because it's his lifelong dream, and he now also gets to play on his uncle's football team. Okay, now I'm not going to sit here and say that they're favoring him over other guys that deserve to be out there. I'm not sure Tommy Kinsler is there yet. I'm not sure Samson Okunlola is there yet, but I agree with you. They should be further along than Lou Cristobal. Putting Lou Cristobal in against Rutgers last year in the bowl game, putting him in there against Ball State the other night is allowing something that is, and I don't want to I'm not going to put words and thoughts in Mario's mind. To me, I'm going to put myself in those shoes. To me, allowing my nephew to live that dream would be really important to me in that situation. I'm not putting him out there against Texas in the college football playoff. And I don't think Lou Cristobal is going to get a ton of action this year. I really don't. But I didn't have a problem with them putting him in that game the other day when they had to deal with the Inez Cooper injury. I really didn't. And I'm not sure, they've been cross-training all those offensive linemen, but you're talking about the right guard position. And, I'm not sure how much Kinsler or Okunlola have prepared at right guard. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. And they all did get to play, but I did not have the same problem with it. And I think if you look at it from the standpoint of family, like it's I agree that it's a little bit of a slippery slope because you don't want the other kids on the team to think you are favoring your relative over them. But if there was any time to get Lou Cristobal playing time this year, and what is this last year as a Miami Hurricane, it was in that game when Inez Cooper got hurt.
Hey, let me tell you. Let me interrupt here, Gary and Greg, because if Mario was coaching at the University of Florida, he would be arrested for doing what he did with Lou Cristobal. Do you know why? Because Florida is a public institution, and the state of Florida has an anti-nepotism law, where I'll state the law. If a public official with hiring authority employs a relative, he goes to jail. All right. Look, Mario Cristobal his whole thing is we play the best players. We play the players who earn playing time on the field and practice. So I'm going to go out on a limb, Gary, and say that maybe Lou Cristobal works really, really hard for a guy who has limited physical skills. And that work ethic is why Mario can make an argument that he can play. Because if Lou Cristobal is not working harder than everybody else, he should not have been on that field, because there's other guys who are clearly more talented than he is.
I got my disguise that I have to do. Greg, I gotta when I do shows with Matt, I gotta have disguises because he's like always so far out there that I know the minute I step foot on campus, I am gonna get bombarded with like, what is wrong with this Matt Shodell guy? Okay. So if I wear a disguise, maybe nobody will recognize me. So that's why I go to the disguise as needed. I got a couple of them here, ready to go at the drop of a hat. Sometimes I go with those flamingos. Sometimes I go with this one, but I've got several of them here just to explain to you, my equipment.
You see what I go through, Greg, every freaking morning? You want to do the morning show, Greg? If you want to wake up at 5 a.m., we don't look that different. We don't look that different. You can go on. People would rather have you than me.
Can I say one last thing? Miami will be favored in every game this year during the regular season. And if they make it to the ACC championship game. Okay?
No argument.
You're telling me the team that we're going to take down to Louisville isn't so much better than the team that we played them with last year, with Tyler Van Dyke, couldn't punch it in from the 2-yard line? We were right there with Louisville last year. We had nobody playing. We had no D-line. Come on, this is a totally different thing.
That game will be a tough game, I think. It's going to probably be a night game.
I don't see it. I don't see any of these games. If they bring their A game, there's no one beating us in the regular season. Well, that's my final point.
Hey, if you open a Kool-Aid stand outside your house tomorrow, let me know. I'll come by and buy some of it, all right?
No, I'm not. Oh, really? So wait a minute. Why are we ranked number 8 right now?
Why was Florida State ranked number 8 3 weeks ago, Greg? It's perception.
What did Florida State do on the field to be ranked number 8?
I talked about this at the time. I said before the season, Florida State is not going to be very good. I said they're only ranked where they are because of what they did last year. That entire team was gone. 11 starters that were transfers last year were gone, and they replaced them with nobodies. Like Miami right now, the perception is Miami's great, but the reality is Miami hasn't beaten anybody good. Do you see what I'm saying? Other teams that have lost to good teams, right? Clemson lost to Georgia. If Clemson didn't play Georgia and played Ball State instead, they'd still be ranked ahead of us.
Listen, when we had
Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt,
Correct.
And you're worried about Virginia Tech. Come on, stop.
Nobody's worried about Virginia Tech. I'm explaining to you why Miami's ranked number 8.
Vanderbilt's good in baseball. They're not good in football. Okay, they're horrible.
When we had the best teams in college football, we still had 3, 4, 5 games a year.
Yeah, I know the Boston College game. I lived it, Gary. I've been watching the Canes since the 70s.
If we think all 12, 13 of these games are going to be walks in the park, I'm with Matt. I think we would be deceiving ourselves. There will be some tough moments going forward with a few of these teams, and
as long as the kneeling coach is there, we'll be okay. All right. All right. Let somebody else get on.
All right,
Thank
Greg.
you.
Hey, thanks as always for being part
Greg
of
is
the
the
show.
best. Greg should just do his own show. Greg's the best.
This is he's
Love that guy.
legendary. Absolute
Love that
legend. All right. So Desmond Williams, Matt, wants to know, and he wants you to answer this question because he is a member of your fan club. Who would win out of Florida State? And I'm assuming he's talking about Florida if they played this weekend. And he wants to hear you answer that. So I'm
okay. That game would go to quadruple overtime, and the referees would all be passed out on the field and just end it at that point. First of all, the ratings for that game would be possibly the worst in the history of the NCAA. So it wouldn't even be televised. Nobody would go to it, so no one would even know what happened in the game. Reporters aren't going to cover that game. Like, nobody cares. If I actually had to say who is going to win Florida State against Florida on a neutral field, I am going to take Florida State by 3 points, 3-0.
Andy Aronson says, Matt is too confident. That scares me. He scares the hell out of me every day too, Andy, in some way, shape, or form. But I agree. A confident Matt Shodell is unusual.
I'm never not confident. Dude, it's been 22 years of bad football. Every year for 22 years, I've been saying, I don't think they're going to be so good. My friends asked me before the year, how many wins will Miami have? I'm like 7 or 8, This year, I was telling my friends, they have a chance. Easy schedule. Cam Ward, we knew was going to be really, really good. Top 2 receivers back. They got a stud running back. 3 starters in the offensive line back, right? The defense, they added guys that we knew would be good. That defensive line would have been a disaster without the portal. Thank God for the portal, right? We knew the returning linebackers would be good enough. Secondary still remains my only concern, but nothing's changed with my confidence. I've said since before the season, I predicted a 10-win season before the season, as did Azubi Charles, who nobody thinks Miami will be any better than Azubi Charles in the entire world, okay? Gary predicted 10 wins. Stephen Wagner predicted 4 wins. No, he predicted 10 wins. And normally, I'm on the lesser side of the 3 of them. I'm usually on the downside. But it's just hits you in the face. This team's really good. The schedule's really easy. The opponents aren't particularly good. They should win 10 games. And, honestly, if I had to bet my life on it right now, I think they end 11-1. And I'm not even sure they lose to Louisville, but you just know there's going to be some loser team where Miami just has a few mistakes, that'll hurt them at some point, because the culture still, you don't go from a culture we saw last year where there were problematic issues and cancers on the team to just everything's perfect. It doesn't happen that way. It takes time. Ultimately, how you build a culture on a major college football team is guys go through the system over a number of years, and then they teach the players that come in under them, here's how it's done over a number of years. And they teach the next wave. Right now, Miami's surviving with its culture on transfers. Quite honestly, on Cam Ward, that's an inherited culture from a different program. That's not a Miami culture. On offense, Cam Ward is the culture. He's the dictator who tells everyone, you better do this right. And on defense, it's Mish Powell, who just showed up from a championship program. That's a Washington culture, okay? So
yeah, but those 2 guys are the perfect fits. I mean,
correct. But my point is, this is not the culture that Mario Cristobal wants to build over the long term. This is just, they got 2 guys who happen to be fantastic leaders, and guys follow them. But at the end of the day, you want 85 guys all pulling in the same direction for each other, and that takes time. That takes years to build, because you have to teach the ones behind you and know how it's done in the first place. So it takes time. That's all. They're not 100% there culture-wise, no matter what Gary or Azubi might want to tell you, but they're 100% better than last year.
Listen, the transfer portal's here to stay. There's no chance they're having this type of success in the transfer portal and then abandoning it moving forward. So that's here to stay. Number 2, if I had to do it all over again, now that I'm seeing how bad these teams are, especially Florida State, I don't think I'd be saying 10 anymore. I think I would be saying at least 11. So I just want to qualify that for sure. Anyway, let me.
So you had them losing to Florida. You had them losing to Florida State. That's good to know. You're such a downer.
No.
Oh no! Mathematically, you just said you had them lose to Florida.
Listen, I'm with
Florida
Greg.
State.
Who are they going to lose to? I think the game at Louisville is going to be a tough game. I mean, if you had to pick one that was their highest probability to lose, it would probably be that game.
Yeah.
But I don't see any other one on the schedule. I mean, I haven't really gotten to eyeball Syracuse yet. I mean, that one's on the road. Cal on the road, went in and beat Auburn, but I haven't had a chance to eyeball them yet either. But
see this is what we're going to find out culture-wise, right? Because if they lose to a bad team or a couple of, quote-unquote bad teams, average ACC teams, right? That's a sign the culture's not really quite there yet. That's what I'm concerned about. That's why they could still lose 1 or 2 games, because you're right, Gary. If the culture is 100%, if they approach every single game the way those old school teams did that you and I both covered, they will not lose a game. They will not lose a game, because those teams, regardless of BC, Matt Walters' heroics with Ed Reed at BC or whatever, like those teams came out and every team knew that was their Super Bowl, and they still crushed almost everybody. This Miami team this year, obviously some teams are making it their Super Bowl, but Miami is no longer the same team where Miami just shows up and intimidates people, right? And other teams have them circled on the calendar no matter what opponent it is. So if this team falters in a game or two, that's a culture issue. That's a we didn't prepare hard enough because we thought we were so good issue. That's still my concern, which is what I say, that takes years to build up. And that's what I'm talking about when I say culture issue.
All right. And, as far as the culture, I don't think Cam Ward and Mish Powell have created their own culture. I think they have been the perfect human beings to fold themselves right into the Miami culture that Mario Cristobal is instilling, and have just been absolute leaders and model citizens in that regard. All right. He's pouncing the store at, I think it's Costco. And he's in full gear as always, and I'm sure that he's getting in big time trouble for not working right now. So we got to go very quickly to our man Kane. Welcome back to CaneSport.
Hey man, hey Gary, look, I ain't got a whole lot. No, I ain't in trouble. People pumping gas, but hey Gary, Matt got you tonight, buddy. Matt is on a roll. Matt, you're not the negative one. It's Gary.
Thank you. Thank you. You're my guy.
I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. I mean, no, Gary, don't be worried. We're going to be all right. Remember, the sun going to rise on the 305. I'm not going to make this game. Got to work. I will be at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech doesn't seem like a problem. Now, Matt was right again. If Lou Cristobal is not that good, no. He shouldn't be on the field. If it's other people that need to play. But I get your point.
He's not that good. You go tell Mario and Lou Sr. he's not that good.
Man, everybody got family in this world, but sometimes you got to do what's right. They getting him in the game. He won't play that much no more, right, Matt? You don't think he'll play no more that much, right? Y'all too?
He'll still be playing in games that are decided, but he better not be playing in games that matter,
Yeah, do that. Games that matter, he shouldn't be playing. Now, Cam Ward, he's a different animal. He doesn't really care about every week, every press conference, we got to get better. That's a great attitude because, we haven't been nowhere in 20 plus years. And I know he ain't caught up on the Heisman. People get on me, Kim, I don't care about no damn Heisman. We've been down so long, I just want to win. I don't care about rankings. Gary got it again. We ain't beat no damn about it. I don't care if we won't rank. If you win, winning takes care of everything, especially like you said, with the teams that's coming up in front, like Virginia Tech, Louisville, California. There's always going to be a game that's going to cause a problem. We don't know where it's at. No, it shouldn't be USF. That quarterback, he a big boy. He like running and stuff like that. But Miami do everything, keep their head on a swivel. The sun will keep rising and we'll keep being good. And we could go 11-1 because Florida State, not good at all. But hey, why worry about it? And the good thing about us with the portal, you see, Mario does play a lot of the young cats. So the culture thing, I agree with you, Matt. It's going to come. It takes time. Just let the sun rise and keep on shining. I ain't got much more to say because it's been great.
What's the one? What's the one, Kane? You said 11-1. Who's the one?
You, Mr. Negative. You gonna be the one. Nobody knows. I told you 12-0, 11-1, 10-2. That's where I'm at. Anything under that is a failure. And I know y'all would say the same thing. So hey, you have a safe trip. You going where, Matt? You heading to Carolina?
Tampa. I am going to actually be in Asheville, North Carolina, but Gary will be in Tampa.
Okay. Well, y'all both have a safe trip. One day I'll meet y'all face to face, but I will be at the Tech game. And till next time, y'all take care. Ain't a whole lot of ripping and rattling. Ain't no need. We winning.
You got to come say hello at the Tech game, okay?
I'm gonna find you. If I gotta jump through and get locked up, no, hell no, I gotta get back to work. I'm too close to retirement to mess up. All right, fellas, y'all take care now.
You got your tickets and everything, Kane?
Man, I'm a season ticket holder for the Dolphins and the Cane. I've been there 3 weeks straight. Yeah, I make my money. That's what I do. I'm a heavy supporter. Y'all take care.
Just making sure, man. All right.
All right,
we'll talk to you next week. I'm not used to the Cane when the Canes are winning. You know, he's been pretty fired up.
He was getting on you, man. He's not a Gary Ferman fan anymore. I don't know what happened.
Nah, he's just having fun. But he's been pretty animated in past years, and
people should be excited. You know, people should be excited about this team, right?
Excited about every game. Excited about the entire season. All right, let's go out to Sebastian. Sebastian, you are back on CaneSport Live. Welcome back, my man.
Hey, Gary. Hey, Matt. Great show, man. Glad to be back on the call. I'm enjoying, the back and forth. It's kind of wild for us to be experiencing, us winning compared to we used to be on the show when we were dealing with therapy. You remember that?
Yep.
You're probably going to have to dust that. You're probably going to have to dust that off. But I got a couple of questions since y'all were talking about Lou Cristobal, and this question is really for Matt. Matt, can you talk a little bit about the development on the team? What have you been seeing on the team that gives you cause for excitement, and what gives you concern when you start looking at the development? Because the transfer portal is good, but if you're not recruiting the right way, if you're not developing the talent the right way, then it's not going to be sustainable. So talk to me about that, Matt. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm also very impressed that you asked me and not Gary, because you want to hear the truth.
I want to hear the truth.
Sebastian's a smart guy. Okay, so look, let's start at the beginning, okay? 22 years of failure, it wasn't all because of bad recruiting. It wasn't all because of bad evaluation. A lot of it was because of bad player development. And other reporters and myself, we would talk about it back in the day all the time. A guy would come in and not get better. Sometimes guys would come in and be worse 2 or 3 years later somehow. I mean, how does that even happen, right? Now, this current system under Mario Cristobal, and Mario Cristobal has a history of development, right? But you don't know with some of these assistant coaches, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. It's not like Mario's in the weight room developing the guys himself. It's not like Mario's coaching every single player himself, right? It's a team effort, quite honestly, among the coaching staff and all the assistants and in the weight room, et cetera, et cetera. So, the perfect example to me is Wesley Bissainthe, right? Because Wesley Bissainthe, if he was on this team 10 years ago, okay, I saw it time and time again, came in, really highly rated recruit. Everybody wanted him, high 4-star, right? Super talented, athletic linebacker. Came in, started 3 or 4 games his freshman year. Well, it was okay. 0 tackles for loss. Very small impact player. Last year, barely got better. Still not really an impact player. Started, I think, 9 games, maybe 10 games. Began as a backup because he really just wasn't flashing enough, right? And now this year, you see a totally different player, right? So this is year 3 under Mario Cristobal for Wesley Bissainthe. When you talk to people who know college football, they'll tell you from year 1 to year 2, you make a big jump. And then from year 2 to year 3, you make a big mental jump, right? Year 1 to year 2 is the physical jump, right? And a little bit mental. Year 2 to year 3, that's now when you're playing fast and you have the physical. You have it all put together in year 3, which is why people always talk about older teams being better, right?
Right.
Freshmen have a very hard time physically. Sophomores have a very hard time physically combined with mentally, because a lot of them don't have a lot of experience at that point. But year 3, you better be a lot better, or else you're probably going to just wither away. And Wesley Bissainthe on this team 10 years ago, I have no doubt would have withered away and just not been a playmaker and just been a guy who was wandering around the field looking lost, like so many guys did back in the day, right? What you see now with Wesley Bissainthe, he can cover, okay?
Yeah.
Really good at covering.
Yeah,
he can
saw
blitz.
with that interception that he made,
yeah.
Right?
And I don't know how closely you guys watched the Florida game. Out of those first 5 or 6 Florida drives, there was 2 or 3 third downs, key third downs. He had solo tackles on 2 of those third downs to end the drive himself by making incredible plays that nobody seemed to notice. Okay? The guy is playing, he doesn't maybe have the stats for it, but he's playing out of his mind better than the last 2 years. And if you want to talk about development, that does not happen in a vacuum, because we have not seen that. I have not seen a guy come in here and have 2 so-so years starting games both those years and make a huge jump in year 3 like you're supposed to. It hasn't happened here in 20 years. So
It's coaching.
That's a microcosm of the development you're talking about. And as that works across the board for the last 2 recruiting classes that Mario's put together, picture 50 Wesley Basseints at every position in year 3 being that much better when you start at a high level as a recruit and not down here, right? And you have the upward trajectory. That's how you build a championship roster behind the free agents that Mario's getting. So finally, Mario's figured out the formula. The first 2 years, as you guys know, I hated his transfer portal takes. I thought it was stupid to take guys that are just another guy instead of racking up recruits. I mean, why waste your time? But finally, here in year 3, he's gotten the formula right. He's gotten the recruits on the team, and he's gotten the key portal guys he needed at positions where he needed them. So now he's built a bit for the future. Next year, I'm not sold on, but for the long-term future. And he's also fixed things for right now. So super impressed.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Gary, you can go ahead and speak on it because I have something I want to.
He's gotten better coaches.
Yeah,
like Coach Nicholson, who's coaching the linebackers. Trust me, he's got a big part in Wesley Basseinth playing at the level he's playing. And we expected the DBs to be an absolute weakness this season, and those guys are playing damn good.
Yeah,
don't think Coach Jackson doesn't have something to do with that. They have upgraded in both those spots.
When I talk about the development, you gave the example of Wesley Basseinth, but I'll give you some other players that I think have developed. Inez Cooper, I can tell you like Isaiah Horton. I've seen him, make tremendous stride. Jaden Harris. These are not guys that I'm looking at next year going to the NFL and they're not going to contribute to the team. These are guys that are inside your programs that you can see where they were when they first started to how they're kind of progressing along. And that's why I'm a little bit encouraged, but I just want to kind of get your thoughts on it because that is something that I'm definitely seeing on this team. Some people complain about putting the backups in and some bringing the young players in. I like to see them on the field. I like to see them getting some reps. You can't simulate game speed, right? So you have to be able to get that experience as soon as you can. The other question I have, and this is partly for you, Gary, what can you tell me about our injury status going into the South Florida game? Is it really likely that we're going to see Inez Cooper? Is that something where Myra is going to pull an okey doke on us and sit him for another year? Are we going to see Bain? Are we going to see I think those are probably the two, Bain and Inez Cooper.
I think there's a great chance you see all 3 of those guys. The only one that we really don't have a handle on, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Matt, but I don't think we have a handle on Damari Brown and how hurt he really is and how long he might be out. Don't have a handle on that one. But the other one, I think are minor.
His shoulder. I thought he injured his shoulder in the Florida game, but someone said they had someone on a scooter or something. Like he's
had some lingering problems too. I mean, trying to get totally healthy. So I don't really know what the full medical report is, and we're sworn to not really reporting about injuries.
That's fine.
But I think that you're going to see those other guys back this week. I do.
Okay, Bain, Cooper, and Jalen Rivers. Because I just have a feeling Cooper's not going to play, but you may see Jalen Rivers and probably the guy number 70. I can't think of his name that was starting up at tackle. To play. I just hope they're getting better because this is the part of the season where your depth and your health is very, very important. What do you guys' thought as far as the impact freshmen so far this year that has really impressed you with the first 3 games?
OJ Frederick is number 1, 2, and 3. In total honesty, I mean Jordan Lyles look good. I love Lofton. I think he's just not being used a lot. But if you took Elijah Lofton and you said we're going to feature him, he'd be a total beast. I mean, he's got so much ability. But those 3 probably come to first. I would say. Matt.
Jordan Lyle. Did you say Jordan Lyle?
Jordan Lyle. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt. I'm very impressed with OJ Frederick. This is the player that I don't think the coaching staff was really depending on, and he was at a position of need that really solved the problem for them that they were trying to navigate going into the season. Having an OJ Frederick that shows up on campus, OJ Frederick to me looks like the Ray Lewis that started his true freshman year. I guess we had an injury that year, and Ray Lewis was not supposed to be the starting linebacker, and he played his true freshman year, and he solved the problem for the coaching staff. So I've been pretty impressed with him. But I was thinking about some impact freshmen. I don't know if you guys had any more. This is my last question, and then I'll let you go on to anyone else. But I just have two. Do you guys think this team is built to be able to handle success? That is what I'm worried about.
Well, I'll take that one. And by the way, Ray Lewis was my very first feature story I wrote for CaneSport on a player.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's how far back I go. And I was actually, it was in the summer, and I was on Ocean Beach, Fire Island at my grandfather's house when UM called me actually, it might have been Ray called me directly. I can't remember now, but that's where I did my interview from, was on Ocean Beach, Fire Island with the waves crashing, and so yeah. But tell me your question again.
My question was, do you think this team is built to handle success? If there's something that I'm worried about going into this season is,
right.
I think they have the right temperament. They're saying all the right things. I think they have the right culture in the locker room. But, I don't look at any of these games as like cupcake games. I think any team could beat you on any given Saturday. I'm going to the Georgia Tech game, and I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia Tech beat them, just because,
right.
I just want to know, is this team built to handle success?
Yeah, no, I got you. I mean, the only problem is we have right now we have a 3-game sample size, and they're not against good teams. And yeah, the players are saying all the right things. I know that as fans, you sort of glom on to, Cam Ward just wants to win games and get better. No, Cam Ward wants to win the Heisman. He wants to be the #1 draft pick in the NFL. Okay, he won't tell you that. He won't say my goal is to be the top pick in the NFL draft and win the Heisman. But that's one of his major goals, for sure, okay? So every player on every team in the country has their own agenda, but it's how much, it's the family, God, country thing, whatever, like where do you stack everything? Is it all selfish? Is it, Ray Joseph, by the way, those plays inside the 5, those are called selfish plays, right? Because if you're doing what's right for the team, you're not supposed to field that ball. He knew where he was.
Right.
He just wanted to make a play for himself so that he can get noticed, so that he can get praised.
He's dying to score a touchdown. He's dying to score a touchdown. Right. I can see it.
Of course. But my point is, actions speak louder than words, right? So the more you see guys make team plays, block as receivers, put their body on the line for their teammates to make a play in the run game, whatever it may be, those are the actions that you look for. Because I have done this for way too long, Sebastian. Like, I put very little stock in the words that come out of coaches' mouths, and to a little lesser extent, players' mouths. Because sometimes players speak the truth because they don't know any better. But coaches, you take it all with a grain of salt, honestly. You remember last year, every week Elijah Arroyo was coming back. Do you remember that? Mario Cristobal?
Yeah.
What's Elijah? Elijah's playing this week. Elijah's playing this week. He was out the whole season. They knew he wasn't playing. So that's, a small sample size of it's coach speak. They want another team to prepare for Elijah Arroyo because they know they have no other tight end that's going to scare anybody. Let the other team spend 3 hours trying to figure out how to stop Elijah Arroyo. Yeah, he's playing, right? It's all games for the coaches because they want to make other teams spend a lot of hours on stuff that they are not going to run in games, okay? So you can't put stock into what they're saying. So therefore, we have to wait. We don't have, there's no answer. Like Gary might tell you, yeah, it's all perfect now. I'm here to tell you, we don't know. We don't know. This is a team that for 22 years has had failure and has played nobody for 3 games. As good as they've looked, we don't know how they're going to handle success until they have some failure in games and have to respond to adversity. Yeah. And have to come together as a team in a locker room at halftime and not point fingers and yell at somebody, you're making me look bad by dropping 3 of my passes that should have been touchdowns, and pick guys up and say, dude, I'm going to keep throwing to you. You better catch the ball because we got to win this game, man. Until those situations arise, we don't know.
They're built to win more so for this reason than anything else. That's Cam Ward. Okay, this kid is dialed in. He is not. He couldn't care less about the success he had 30 seconds ago, much less a game ago. He's making sure these guys stay on point, that they keep working. He is being a leader of this team. They may lose. I'm not going to sit here and say 12-0. You know, it could happen for sure. But it's not going to be because they weren't built to win. Cam Ward is leading them there.
I think the perfect example of the impact Cam Ward has had is it's seeing Emory Williams play the way he played this last week.
Good point.
I mean, what was it, 11 of 12? I mean, he didn't have like no pre-step mistakes. I mean, he had the right read. Just his execution. I think having somebody in front of you that mirrors that exemplifies that goes an extremely long way. I'll leave you guys with this last question, then y'all can put me on hold. Thank you so much for the show. But as far as recruiting, can you guys give me some thoughts on some impact recruiting targets that you think have a great shot at being part of this class? And if we were somehow able to get them inside the fold, these are what you call, Matt, some game changers, like some folks that, you know, be ready, be excited about some things that can come when we sign this person to our potential class. So some recruiting targets that we don't have in the class that we have a good shot at possibly be able to landing. As Stephen Noman says, what are some whales that are out there that could really, really make a difference? And just keep me on hold. Guys, great show so far. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, as Stephen would say, I really, 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 really think that they can get some of these guys still on the board. I mean, look, there's a bunch of guys that are working hard. You know, Michael Carroll, you know, has a lot of interest in Miami. Obviously, came to a game. Elijah Griffin, DJ Pickett, like Miami. These are 5 stars. Those 3 guys are 5 stars, okay? Like, when's the last time we could talk about 5 stars that actually are interested in Miami, even if they might be committed elsewhere or looking elsewhere, whatever the case may be? Like, there are players in this country that are the top players in their respective positions that are highly interested in the Miami Hurricanes. And if Miami has a great year this year, which they already are having, and if they continue that, and if they have the NIL money in place, like, it's just going to be an embarrassment of riches. And that's the shame of it all, which no one talks about anymore, is, you know, I remember, I'm not going to say which coach it was, but, you know, back in 2002, 2003, when it all went south, I mean, these 5 stars were just like it is now. They were dying to come to Miami. They all had Miami in their top 3, top 5, top 2. But Miami started drafting off lists. Like, I remember going into a coach's office, and he literally had one of the, can I say rivals.com on this show? I don't know. You can bleep it out in the replay, Gary. But he had a rivals.com screen up on his computer. And I'm like, hey, coach, you know, what's going on or whatever, because I was supposed to be interviewing him about a certain position. And he says, oh, I'm just finding players that we can recruit, you know, going off lists, right? What really worked for Miami back in the day is you have a network of South Florida coaches, and you call every single one of them every single week or month of the year. Hey, who'd you play against that impressed you? Hey, who's on your team from 9th grade to 12th grade that you think is going to be a standout? Who's really progressing? And that's how you do it, you know. And then you branch that out into a national scale. It's not, you know, some schmuck in Nashville says this guy is a 4-star, so hey, let's go get him, you know, because there's 100, whatever it is, 54 stars, however many there are. 30 of them wind up sucking. You got to find the 20 that are good. You know, there's not a high hit rate for any amount of stars. Okay, there's just not. Like, the NFL doesn't take a lot of guys, and you want NFL level players in championship level programs.
All right, Sebastian, with all respects to the 5-minute speech that Matt just gave you, where he didn't answer your question, I'm going to answer your question.
3 names.
I'm going to answer your question for you, Sebastian.
Appreciate it.
I got 10 guys. We got 10 guys isolated. Okay. We actually worked on this today, believe it or not, with Steven and Azubi and whatever. All right, we got Joshua Moore, okay, the receiver. You know, Dallas Wilson, another receiver. Tyler Williams, another one. Those guys are huge priorities. Javion Hilson is another. Kylan Wiley, DJ Pickett, Elijah Griffin, Nate Marshall, TJ Alford, and Derry Norris. Those are the 10 guys that we are focused on covering right now. that we think there's a chance that they can be members of this 2025 recruiting class.
And of the list you gave me, Gary, if we got 3 out of that 10, I think we've knocked it out the park. Out of that 10 you told me, we will come back, hold on to that list at the end when it comes around signing day. If we have the season that we have, I want to see how many of those individuals on that top 10 list that we're able to bring into the fold. That'll be an interesting conversation for us to have sometime later this fall.
You got it, man. And I'll tell you something else. If they don't sign on December the 4th, the coaches are moving on because they're not playing around. They're gonna go. They know what they can do in the portal, and the guys that want to be Miami Hurricanes, they got to be ready to go on December the 4th, which is the early signing day.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks, guys, man. Great show, man. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Hey, Gary. Before I know I have to. I depart the show fairly soon because somebody better comes on instead of me. But I do want to give a shout out because somebody actually read. You remember the Ray Lewis story I mentioned? Jason C3PO. He was nice enough to post that he remembers reading my story from 1993 when Ray Lewis got the last available scholarship on that Miami Hurricanes team. So shout out to. I don't know if his name's Jason or C3PO. I'm guessing his name's C3PO. Maybe it's Jason. It's hard to tell from his username.
All right. Well, we still got a couple minutes before you leave, Matt. So there's a guy that's been pacing his kitchen. I love this new format we have this year because, I get to see the guys in the lobby while they're waiting to come on the show. And I mean, this guy, he's like been pacing his kitchen. He goes to the refrigerator and gets something to eat, watches the show for a few minutes, goes into his cabinets, gets something to eat, comes back, watches the show for a few minutes, goes into his closet, gets a big black jacket. I guess he was cold. Puts the black jacket on for a few minutes, watches some more of the show, takes the black jacket off, gets himself something else to eat, probably has a nice glass of wine there next to him. But yes, he does. I just saw him take that sip. So we better just get it going here and get to Jake's living room there. Jake, we need to unmute your mic. Your mic.
Let's do that. Yep. How's it going?
Welcome back to CaneSport Live.
You've been watching me over there. Yeah. No,
I've been to be honest with you, I've been laughing my ass off. I mean, it's like I'm having so much fun watching Jake. I think I'll wait a few more minutes before we bring him on the show. I was enjoying watching you in the lobby.
That's what CaneSport looks like when you've got visual there. You don't it's not the audio anymore. So we got the whole array. Making dinner here. Doing a little I haven't eaten yet today, so I had a little salami and cheese and everything over here. So yeah.
It looked good. I didn't know what it was, but it looked like you were enjoying it.
Yeah. No, not bad. Can't complain. Can't complain about the Hurricanes either. I got the shirt. We got the optimism today, and for once, you don't have to run a psychological damage show. It's probably got to be nice, but don't want to get too far ahead of
was remembering the days we used to do therapy. Remember we used to start the show every week with Mary J. Blige singing therapy, and I can't remember the words. It's been a while, but a little different this year, Jake.
Should have been charging $100 a person last couple of years with the therapy rates. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's looking good. I could only watch half the game because of the delightful ACC network. That was a little disappointing. Still waiting for that on the rewatch, but that just looked crisp. I mean, I know it was a poor opponent, but I liked it was a little more cleaned up than FAMU. Didn't stall out as much. One thing I will say, and I don't know what you guys think about this, the red zone has been a little bit, it's nitpicking, but we've been settling for some field goals. I do like to see Borregales get some practice before we really get into real games moving forward. But, their red zone efficiency's been so-so. It seems like, outside the 20, they're scoring at will. But once they get down in the red zone, it's tightening up a little bit, and they've come up short a few times in the last couple of weeks, whether it's field goals. I think Famu. They had turnover on downs. That was a little disappointing to see against inferior competition, if you will. I don't know what you guys think about that.
You're nitpicking. I think you're nitpicking. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, numbers wise, they're 51st in red zone offense. So when you compare that to being number 3 in total offense in the country, number 2 in passing offense in the country, number 5 in scoring offense in the country, third down conversion percentage, number 3 in the country. So now when you go to 51st in red zone offense, it looks terrible. But if this was last year's team, you'd be like, all right, 51st is not so terrible. It's not great or anything, but it's not like that big a difference. It's just very noticeable because they're just moving the ball, and they're not necessarily always getting touchdowns out of it and things like that. Red zone defense is 100th in the country. They're not doing well in the red zone, but nobody's freaking out because you don't really notice it that much when you're beating teams 60-0 and 48 to whatever.
It is nitpicking. I'm looking at it optimistically this year, but last year we were 5-0. Things looked like they were starting to steamroll forward, and then Georgia Tech happened, and the thing fell off the tracks. So it's just things just keeping an eye. I don't think this team's built like last year. This Cam Ward, he's the real deal. I don't think we've had a quarterback like this. Ken Dorsey, I see a little bit of. I think Emory Williams could be a Ken Dorsey type. I know that may sound outrageous, but
No.
Ken Dorsey was a good quarterback with an amazing surrounding cast. I think that's something that Emory Williams could grow into. But getting a guy like Cam Ward, that's he's a first round pick type of guy, and I think is really with the cast he has this year been able to elevate his game to a whole other level, even beyond what he was doing at Washington State. That would probably lead to the next question I have. The recruiting's been real good. Like a lot of these young guys are getting in, making an impact. Justin Scott, OJ Frederick, you guys have talked a lot about them. One thing that concerns me a bit with Mario, and I hope that he's got this label as a quarterback killer, fair, unfair, whatever it is. I think this year hopefully will greatly disprove that. But the one thing in recruiting that I think has been sorely lacking is high-end quarterback recruiting. And then to couple that a little bit, I was looking through the list you just named off for potential flips, but you looked at, there's 5 top 100 wide receivers in the state of Florida, and not one of them is committed to us. They're all committed elsewhere. I think for us to get to that next level and to sustain it, we're going to have to reverse course on that. And what do you guys think? I know we got our next year's guy locked in, but if Cam Ward's a Heisman winner, first round pick, I feel like we got to up the ante. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, with the success that Cam Ward's having this year, that anybody in the transfer portal is going to have a little bit of a sideward glance at Miami, whether they're actively going after a quarterback or not. They love Emory Williams. They think the world of him, but what if they're, and I don't know who it would be. I haven't studied all the quarterbacks that might be in the portal right now. But what if another Cam Ward becomes available? They got a tough decision to make. Going into next year. I know they love Luke Nickel, who's going to be coming in January. Very happy with the quarterbacks that they have on the team right now. We don't know what Reese is going to do. He may leave. He might not even stick around to compete in the spring if he thinks that he's already lost out to Emory. Quite honestly. So we'll see what happens there. But the success of Cam Ward should increase Miami's marketability to quarterbacks.
I will add to that it's going to be tough. I don't think next year's roster, if Cam Ward was looking at the same team, but it was next year, I don't think Cam Ward comes to Miami next year because They lose 3 receivers, right?
Mhm.
Xavier Restrepo is a senior, Jacoby George is a senior, Sam Brown will be gone, right? So a lot of question marks at the receiver position. So you have to bring in highly paid receivers in the portal if you're going to get a Cam Ward. And on top of that, next year, I think Emory Williams is probably going to be a reason some quarterbacks don't want to come here, because unless they are at a Cam Ward level, okay, which you got to pay a fortune and they have to be available and want to come to your program. It just happened to work out for Miami's favor, this particular case. Most quarterbacks are going to have to compete to start.
Yeah.
And most transfer quarterbacks are not going to pick a team where they have to compete. They're picking the team that has good receivers, a good system that fits them, and where they know they will start and will not be like, it's going to be 50-50. I got to win the job in the fall. Like, that's not why these guys are transferring. Most quarterback transfers are transferring because that's what they're leaving, right? Either they don't like the system, a coach left, they're unhappy, the receivers are all gone, or they have to compete to start. And in any of those scenarios, Miami's going to be the same way. The system might fit, but they lost their receivers, right? The receivers will be gone next year. And they may have to compete with Emory Williams. So next year's not an ideal situation. And Mario is labeled as a quarterback killer because of Justin Herbert, obviously, and he didn't live up to his potential there. But I think it's somewhat unfair because, Mario builds his teams not on, and this year, maybe this is why he's using Cam Ward throwing so much. But Mario builds his teams to be balanced offenses. When you see quarterbacks dominate in college, it's the run and shoot, it's these wide open offenses. Those are the quarterbacks who put up big numbers. That's not Mario's system. That's not the coordinators he hires. So it's really hard for a quarterback to put up the same numbers as some of these other systems. It just is. Now, this year is a little bit different. I think partially because Shannon Dawson did run the kind of offense that puts up big numbers in the passing game. But by that same token, I think you're going to see a lot more running and a lot less passing as we move ahead into the tougher parts of the schedule. So we'll see how that goes.
I'm back in disguise because I'm going to get yelled at on campus again. What is Matt talking about with this quarterback killer nonsense? Jake
asked about it.
I brought it up.
That was part of Jake's question. That was Jake's question.
Led Oregon to the Pac title, number 1, and he was a high first-round draft pick in the NFL draft, and he's been one of the top young quarterbacks in the NFL since he left Oregon. Okay? That's not a quarterback killer. I'm sorry.
Well, you could argue underutilized.
I'm going to start
Google the words Justin Herbert
experience on this show, and I'm going to start bringing my own wine because I got to deal with this guy and his outrageous comments.
It helps, Gary. I'm telling you. Yeah, you got
to. That's part of why he got the nickname quarterback killers, because Justin wasn't throwing the ball enough, Gary. They ran more than they passed with Justin at quarterback, no matter how you want to say it. Like, that's the facts. That's why he got that nickname. I mean, what do you want from me? Jake asked because he knows that's true. And I'm explaining why it happened, that he's not a quarterback killer, that is the kind of offense that Mario runs.
To the second part of that question I had, though, I would ask, like, it seems like this is actually probably more puzzling to me because, quarterbacks, I guess, next year we got that Diabell kid at Heritage or whatnot, but quarterbacks for the most part are not the top end ones. Are not homegrown in Florida. So you're having to go elsewhere to go get them. But to me, what that's kind of leading an issue to is that you're having a hard time keeping all these South Florida and even Central Florida guys. You look this year, you got Jamie French, Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, Josh Moore, a handful of others, and they're all going elsewhere, despite the fact we had the 2 leading receivers in the ACC last year. Are these guys going to be first-round picks? Probably not. Are they going to get drafted? I would bet you they will, with Jacoby George and Xavier Restrepo. Plus, you saw a pretty substantial increase in production, showing that, A, you're willing to throw to them, and B, there's development. It's not like, we can only go to Brian Hartline. He's the only guy who can develop a receiver in all of college football. These guys are going elsewhere. They're going to shitty Florida. Vernell Brown's a legacy, but Josh Moore, like he's a Palm Beach kid, and hopefully he flips. We'll see how it goes. But I find it kind of crazy that with the success they've had throwing the ball, even with the inconsistency of last year, that we're losing out to other schools. And that's to me, that's the only thing that's really missing right now in recruiting. The line, the scrimmage, that looks
Got to do
like
a better job with receivers. No argument.
Yeah.
All right, Jake. Well, thanks.
That's
as
what I
always,
got
man.
for you this week. So I'm going to get back to eating and let you guys
get back to
do
eating
it.
and enjoy it. Enjoy that wine, and we'll see you next week.
Always. We'll see you next week. Hopefully
next
after a
week.
win.
Yeah.
See you, Dick.
All right, Matt. Time to let you go get some sleep.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Any parting thoughts?
No, I mean, listen, Justin Herbert put up good numbers. Don't get me wrong. Like, people are freaking out. I see some of the comments here. He put up good numbers. But if you ask Oregon fans, they think that he regressed for whatever reason, that he regressed under Mario. That's Oregon fans. I didn't cover Oregon. I covered Miami. Maybe I'm deluded, but I've read articles about it and things like that. Like, look, I'm just telling you guys what I've read and what I've heard from Oregon people. So, don't kill me for it. But look, I'm very optimistic. Look, this is how excited I am about the season. See?
All right, well,
that's excited. That's my excited face.
Pleasant dreams, not.
All right, have fun.
We'll see you back on this show next week. All right, guys, let's tonight's show, as they all are every Tuesday night, is presented by CaneSport, your go-to destination for all your Miami Hurricanes merchandise needs. Let's take a moment here and hear from our friends at CaneSport.
Welcome to CaneSport.
New store, new items, same great experience. Family owned and operated since 2010, CaneSport has the latest merchandise from the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, Inter Miami CF, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of 595, or online at caneswear.com. CaneSport, the spot Miami fans shop.
CaneSport really is the premier destination now for all your merchandise needs. If you live in South Florida, you can visit their store, 2655 South University Drive in Davie. If you don't and you want to catch them online, you go to caneswear.com. We're talking t-shirts, jerseys, polos, hoodies, hats, flags, decals, magnets, everything you could possibly need, you can buy at CaneSport, and they have sizes for men, women, kids, and babies. They will even dress your pet. Okay. You got to have a Cam Ward jersey. I know I've been saying this. I mean, you can't exit this season without a Cam Ward jersey. They're well stocked on those. CaneSport is more than a store. It is an absolute experience. And, but a year ago, they expanded their location there on University Drive. It's about 15 minutes north of Hard Rock Stadium. And I really urge those of you that have not been there to go give them a try. 2655 South University Drive in Davie, caneswear.com. So visit the store or the website and get everything you could possibly need for your Canes closet. And I'm going to bring on a guy now that is a big CaneSport customer. He's spends a lot of time at CaneSport, a lot of money at CaneSport, and he's the voice of the fan, which means that he's making a lot of noise these days, as well as the Miami Hurricanes go to 3-0, number 8 in the country. And that is Bruce Warner. And Bruce, welcome back to CaneSport Live.
Yeah, they call me the truth teller, so you could do whatever you want instead of the voice of the fan.
I like the voice.
They call me what you. That's fine. By the way, I went on a cruise 2 weeks ago for a whole week, and I realized all I have is Miami stuff. But that was the day after we beat the Gators, and I walked. There was 3,000 people on the ship, and it was all about the U. It was great. I didn't see any Gator hats. I didn't see any Florida State hats. I was so proud. I get all most of my stuff from CaneSport, unless I get it from Mario directly, which I have gotten some stuff. But anyway,
CaneSport, baby. All right. Well, let's start, Bruce. Before I go back to our fan guests, your general thoughts on what you've seen so far.
Well, it's the same as you and Matt, who said that I'm better than him. He's being replaced. That's not true. Matt's great, but no, you can't complain. You can't complain. There's nothing to complain about. If you want to look at something to complain, I don't think Mario's happy with the running game. I don't think he is, and whether it's the line or whatever.
Not happy with receiver recruiting either.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they may get one or two of these guys who are on this list, but they better pick it up, and Beard's doing a hell of a job. So it's kind of shocking that none of these guys are committed here. It really does boggle the mind. I mean, when you think of Miami, you look at all these receivers we've had for years and years and years. But I think that if they run the table this year, some of these kids either going to change their mind, and come and flip, or maybe next year they'll get a bunch of blue chip guys. But don't forget, we still have Trader, right? We have Chance Robinson. We still have Nykar. These guys are young, and as they'll get experience as the season goes on, especially if they're blowing these teams out. But I don't know if that's enough to go along with Isaiah Horton next year and the tight ends that we have. And we've got, you've got Lofton, he can play anywhere in the field. So, he can catch. He caught a touchdown pass the other day. So, listen, as the season goes on, maybe I'll get a little more nervous. I'm not nervous now. I keep hearing how good South Florida is. I keep hearing how their fans are chirping they're going to beat us. No, they're not. They're not going to beat us. Is it going to be a better game than we've seen so far? Yes.
Should be.
I think they have talent. That quarterback is big. He can run, and he can throw too. He's got a pretty strong arm. So, I'm a little worried about this game. But I only worry is if Miami doesn't show up. If they show up and their head's in the game, I can't see how anybody could stop the offense. Do you agree?
Yeah, they have I don't have the exact number right here, but they have a lot of talent back on this team from last year that has been playing together. They're seasoned college football players. They're fairly well coached. They force a lot of turnovers on the defensive side of the ball. They go after the quarterback, but they also do give up a lot of yards and a lot of points. And we make a big deal. They gave Alabama a hard time for 3 quarters the other day, but Alabama just blew them out of the stadium in the 4th quarter. So Miami should have success. Miami is a handful right now with all these different playmakers and Shannon Dawson scheming it up at a top level, and obviously Cam Ward surging to the front of the Heisman race, very focused. It's going to be a tough task for them to slow down this offense. I do expect Miami to win handily, but I do also like the fact, like I said at the beginning of the show, that there is going to be more competition on the field, and I think this team needs that because right now this is a race to keep getting better, so that when you get to the end of the season, hopefully, and you're in the position that you think you're going to be able to set yourself up for, that you are the best that you could possibly be. I don't see them becoming that unless they're challenged at certain points this season.
Right. I agree with that. They need to be challenged. They've got, I think Jake said they were 5-0. I think they were 4-0 and they lost to Georgia Tech. But put that aside. Look, and I know Matt talked about culture. You guys were talking about culture with Sebastian. You've been down there. I'm down there. I haven't seen the culture like this in 20 years. These kids are all locked in. I mean, I watch practices. I see a guy catch a 5-yard square out. All the receivers are jumping up and down. Do you see anybody sitting on the bench during the game? No, they're all standing right on the side watching this team. They are so locked in. They have so bought into what Mario wants them to do that doesn't concern me at all. The culture is there. I don't think they're going to look past anybody because, as you know, when Mario goes to the podium after the game, they've left stuff on the table. Ward says the same thing. They are not happy yet. There's nothing to be satisfied about. They haven't won a damn thing so far. And the focus is there. So I do think, maybe they'll get scared early in the game. A few wrinkles that South Florida throws out. They're not going to beat Miami. They're just not good enough up and down the roster.
All right. If you're watching, you want to be on the show tonight, there's your link, CaneSport@yahoo.com. Send us an email. We will send you the link to the studio. Now we're going to go out to one of our longtime favorite fans, a guy that always brings a lot to the show, and that's Everything 305. Audio only, as per usual. But Everything, welcome back to CaneSport Live.
Hey, good evening, guys. How we doing?
What's up there, 305? How you doing, man?
Doing phenomenal. Yourself?
Good. Long time no speak.
Yes. It's been a minute there, Bruce. Hope you had a good time on your cruise there.
I had a great time. I had a really good time. But I'm back, so now I'm back to reality. But I did go. There's a sports bar on Freedom of the Seas but it's not like one you've seen before. It's all loaded with TVs. And I was afraid to get stuck not getting a seat at a 6 o'clock game. So I paid over $100 and something for a private suite with leather couches and a massive screen TV. So no one interrupt me. No one could bother me. So yeah, I had a great time, but it cost me a few bucks, but I wasn't going to miss the Canes. That's for damn sure.
Well worth it then, Bruce.
Yeah, it was well worth it.
Well, Gary, I had a couple of concerns I wanted to bring out with regards to South Florida. I think you guys have touched on a lot of good things about them, but the one thing that concerns me more than anything is we have yet to see this guy throw the ball like he threw last year. And I know they're not holding back anything. I just there's something with this kid that he's not throwing the ball as well as he did last year. And he's a dynamic player. He's great with his feet, can extend plays. But the one thing I always liked about him last year was his ability to go ahead and make a big play when it's needed. Not play hero ball, but just take what they give you and just push the envelope a little bit when it's time to do so. So thinking of that, I haven't seen that yet. So, I'm sure they got a couple of things they haven't shown yet for us. It's going to be a big crowd for them, a big crowd for us, but it's going to be a big opportunity for them on the national stage there. But we talked about injuries earlier tonight, and notoriously, Mario plays it exactly the way you want a head coach to play it. You want to go ahead and make sure your opponents are worried about everything. And I don't want to say anything. I'm not going to say the player's name. I'm not going to say that Dad played for UM back in the day. But, we're talking about an extensive period of time with one kid. It's not going to be an overnight thing. And I think we all know what we're talking about, but I just want to make sure I shared what was shared with me earlier this weekend. And I'm hoping, they all come back. The one kid that continues to impress me, and I think you've talked about earlier, like years 1, year 2, they grow physically. And then year 3, mentally, they all catch up. This one kid, I think, grew mentally from year 1 to year 2 more than he has physically from year 2 to year 3. And that's Inez Cooper. Watching him get hurt the other day, I'm hopefully it's not that serious. And again, Mario's not going to be sincere because that's his job. He's not supposed to be sincere. But I like what the kid does, that he goes to the 40-yard line about right after warmups, and he just stares at that entire team that he's going to face. And when you look at some of the older guys that we used to have, the mentality, the approach, it's within their DNA. I'm starting to see that from this kid. I mean, he's not there. He's not drawing attention to himself. It's what Coach Mirabal has always been. He's not been given enough credit on this, is how well he teaches guys between the years. The mentality to go ahead and just take one rep at a time and annihilate the guys in front of you. Do your job, but the guy in front of you, you've got to own. And I think that's permeated in that room now for 3 years. And I want to say that maybe it was Greg who was asking why the younger Cristobal's playing and some of the talent we have. It's not just the physical component. It's what's between the ears. That kid didn't play a lot of Georgia State. I think he had, 9 starts, Gary? Maybe 10 at Georgia State, something like that.
Right.
But he was coached pretty well. And I think there's a level of trust that kid has for whatever reason. I don't think it's nepotism. I early on, I thought it was a little bit, but then you listen to Mirabal explain how they grade, and the kids on the money. The younger kids they're just not ready yet. I'm a bit disappointed in one kid, not because he's a 5-star and he had his own brand and all those things. I just think that the injury kind of set him back mentally and physically a bit, and he's not where he needs to be yet. You would have thought he worked a little bit harder. Physically, I don't think he did. And he's got a little bit of time. That's Okunlolo, who was from a prep school in Massachusetts, I believe. But I would hopefully – I want to see more out of that kid. And what we heard last summer, Gary, we talked about it a couple of times on the open forums there on the website, but there just isn't that killer instinct. I'm hearing the brother has more of that than he does. Who I think is was he at Pitt now or?
He better get it. He better get it pretty quick.
Yeah,
I'll
he
tell you
better.
that. Because when guys have big NIL deals and he has one, like they don't have time to wait too long. I mean, everyone talks about money and budgets and things like that. It's not like unlimited funds. Okay. Like, there's a scale, there's a plan. And if somebody is not performing to their NIL number and they're tying up space that they need for other guys, I don't care if they were 3-star, 4-star, 5-star coming out of high school, they're going to probably have to go hit the transfer portal. And, Sampson's doing okay. I don't think he's at that point yet. But I think they're going to be looking for some real progress here as the season goes on. So we'll see. And as far as Cooper, I agree with what you're saying. He had a sprained ankle. The signs were that he would be okay for this week. But again, until we get to game day, you're absolutely right. You don't know for sure.
Yeah, and but Oklahoma, his level of competition up north wasn't so great in high school. So they took a flyer on him because he's really big, but he probably really has to relearn or actually learn a lot more technique, and he's probably not ready yet. He had a physical injury last year, which probably set him back. But I think as the season goes on, he needs to show improvement. He'll get in the game, and then we'll see what he does. But yeah, that's a kid right there. There's a 5-star, but that doesn't mean anything anymore. I think that's why we always say I'd rather have a Florida kid who's a 3-star than a 4 or 5-star from Iowa, because you just don't know the level of competition, how good the person really is.
And Bruce, to your point, you look at the kid that has been starting since week 1, and that's the 3-star from St. Thomas Aquinas. And how critical evaluations are. He's the epitome of that. He's been able to just not just maximize the opportunity, but his incoming skill set again between the years. You can't teach that stuff. That's part of their makeup. And I think, the physical, he's got to get a little bit better in a lot of areas, no doubt about it. But he's been able to come in and compete and take a job. And I think, again, the quality of evaluation, and he hasn't been here since January. This kid got here when? Late spring, Gary, and he's just pretty much taking it to another level. So I think that's an example of having kids that you find that they can come in and compete. You don't know if they're going to be able to take a spot, but can they compete? And lo and behold, the kid says, "Yeah, this is mine, and I'll take it." And
What's beautiful about this is there's the kid who's got the football knowledge and the football skills. We've seen guys come in here over the years. I just thought James Williams or even Willie Williams were guys that freelanced when they were in high school. They could do whatever they wanted. They overrun a play. Nobody cares. They'll knock a few people out. But in terms of football knowledge, he was here, 3 years? He made some good plays, but he made a lot of bad plays because he really didn't have the football IQ. At least I don't think it didn't show that he had it. Now he's playing linebacker in the NFL. So I look at some of these guys that are 5-stars, and I don't always agree that they're going to be great. Some of these other guys that are 3 and 4 stars, like this kid, he's making himself great. He knows football. He knows where to go, where not to go. He knows he doesn't get looked off too many times. And he's a feisty kid. He's a tackler. He's a hitter. You got to like a kid like that. You see and look at Kermani McLean, a nothing. 5-star, all the fanfare in the world, a nothing. Because in between his ears, there's a lot of space.
The last thing I wanted to share with you guys before I let y'all go, in terms of the game plan for Saturday, and Gary, I believe it was Matt that brought this up, but Mario is not happy with the way we're running the ball, and that is given the fact that you're missing. We've lost 3 starters.
The lack of continuity on the offensive line has certainly not helped, but they're not moving people at the line of scrimmage the way they think they can and the way they want to and the way they hopefully will. And I'm sure they're putting a lot of work into that this week in practice.
I agree with Gary. They're going to pound the ball on Saturday. They have to. They're going to throw, but not like he's been throwing. They're going to run and wear these guys out. I agree with him.
I really hope that's the game plan. But the other thing I'm looking at is the ability for Cam to go ahead. I mean, Southern Miss moved the ball extremely well again through the air. People they're in amazement as to why it's such close games last year and this year. Well, Milton's not a passer at Alabama. He's just not. He's the type of kid that's learning, getting better, but he's an athlete back there. It's a different type of scheme that you have to go ahead and prepare for that type of kid. So, again, I think that if they do load the box up pretty heavy early on, Bruce, Cam's going to have to make some really good decisions. And again, so far from what we've seen of him, yes, it's exactly what you want to see. But how fast have the defenses been that he's been looking at? How talented they are, how well coached they are. We're going to find out more this Saturday.
Right. But again, Miami has a ton of weapons. They can go to the tight end on crossing routes. They can put Chris Johnson in the flat. Good luck staying with him. So there's a million things that Dawson can do to offset any pass rush that they're going to come with. But they're going to have to stop the run. They can come all they want. We could just knock them over. We have to block better. That's all.
Guys, have a great night and go Canes.
All right, everything. Come on camera one of these weeks, man. We want to see you.
Man. We'll do.
All right, everything.
Be well.
Have a good one. All right, if you guys that aren't coming on the show have questions or comments, you could post them in the chat. We'll be getting to that in a minute. But first, we got to go to Canes Cats Heat 305. You are live on CaneSport Live. Unmute your microphone so we can hear you. And looks
Somebody
like he's
said it's past my bedtime. No, it's not.
I think he must be taking a coffee break or something because his mic is muted. All right.
Gentlemen.
There you go. Canes Cat, you hear it? You with us?
Yes, gentlemen, good evening.
There you are.
Gentlemen,
there he is.
Oh, no, we came with camera and everything. What's going on? What you got for us tonight?
Gentlemen, the only question I have, Gary, you're going to be making the trip this week?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Just what do you think about what's going to happen in this game? You expecting a blowout? You expecting it to be tight?
Yeah, I'm expecting Miami to be too much for them as the game goes on, but I think they might come out with some energy early. They're going to have a good crowd there. They normally just use the lower bowl at Raymond James Stadium, and they've been selling a lot of student tickets this week. I think they took the cap off their student tickets, which filled up the lower deck, and now they've opened up the upper deck to allow additional fans that want to come. So this will be a big deal in Tampa. The Canes coming to town is something special for those folks over there. And, I think South Florida is going to come out with a lot of energy. They're going to be, they're going to have a lot of confidence. They played relatively well for 3 quarters against Alabama. I'm sure they'll have some schematic things ready to try to give Miami a hard time. But I just think that the way that Miami is playing, the explosiveness, Cam Ward, the steadiness that he has shown, I think they'll wear South Florida out and win convincingly. And I personally think they'll cover the spread, but we'll see what happens there.
Also, Gary, one last question, and also for you as well, Bruce, if you can also chime in. Gary, you've been covering recruiting, and Bruce, you've been around for a long time. It's more of like not really a serious question, but more of an honest question. I mean, with the talent in South Florida declining in the last couple of years, I mean, what do you really think is the main reason for that? You think it's the way that the cost of living is down here due to like some of the families? I mean, what do you truthfully
Why do you
think
say the talent is diminishing? They're not all coming to Miami, but it's not really diminishing.
I mean, in South Florida, it is compared
Not
to
really.
years past.
Not really.
No.
I mean,
Jeremiah Smith
Jeremiah Smith, he's not diminishing.
JoJo Trader, obviously. You look at Mark Fletcher, the way he's playing at Miami.
Gary, look at the kid that went to NC State, the quarterback from
Ferman. Cedric Bailey is going to be the starting quarterback in his first year at NC State as a freshman.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's also true. But I mean, the states like Georgia, Texas.
You got the Bell kid at Heritage. A lot of people think the Bell kid at Heritage is one of the top quarterbacks in the country in the next class.
No, he for sure is.
Yeah, I mean, like there's still talent. Miami's not getting as much of it as they would like all the time. I mean, trust me, Mario wouldn't want any of these kids leaving town. And for me, it's been
not only Miami. the question's more just the local talent in general. Like I feel like states like Georgia, Texas have been getting a lot more better players.
That
Not
I'll
like
agree with.
Yeah.
Texas and Georgia are hot right now. Yeah.
That's mainly what I'm saying. Is I feel like the cost of living could be an issue down here where players are moving to Georgia, Texas, Alabama. Because obviously, I mean, majority of the players obviously come from low income families, which majority of the times that's usually how it goes. So I mean, the cost of living down here is so expensive now, where I mean, it could be pushing some of these top players to Georgia, Texas, Alabama, the cheaper states.
Yeah, but
North Carolina.
you know what else is good? We're getting kids from other states too. We're getting Luke
for sure.
from Georgia. He's not from Florida, and these other guys are coming here. A lot of California kids, a lot of Vegas kids. So it kind of works both ways. As long as we're getting talent, and I don't care where it comes from. But yeah, Texas is a hotbed. Georgia's now a hotbed. I agree with that.
Yeah, it goes in cycles. You know, I mean, the other thing I'll tell you is that I see them being more careful about who they take. You know, I think there's a higher standard of evaluation right now. You know, you have a Dade County kid. I'll use Ray Joseph as an example. It's not the best thing in the world if Ray Joseph comes to Miami and isn't good enough to be playing. And right now he's not. Okay. Right. His coach, the high school coaches are mad. The people in the community over there are mad. You know, so they got to be careful about who they take from Dade County. They got to make sure the guys they're taking from Dade County are real dudes, because if they're not real dudes, they got to send them to the portal, and that creates issues as well. It's a more complicated world right now in college football. It just is. And I like what they're doing. I like that they are really putting a fine eye, especially on these local kids, and making sure that they aren't just taking kids that they can, because you could pretty much take almost any South Florida kid for the most part that you really, really want. You are the odds-on favorite to get that kid. And I know some of them are leaving, but, you know, you got to make sure you get the right ones. You got to make sure you get the right ones for your locker room, your program, and on the field.
Yeah, and one other thing, you know, the last 2 years, what are they, 12 and 13 before this season? We're 3-0 now, which is great. But would you send your kid to Miami off of the last 2 years? Not necessarily. We didn't have Cam Ward. We had Van Dyke. So now if we run the table this year, we make a playoff, that's going to change. Even though Ward won't be here, that's going to change, because kids will say, oh, I better go to Miami. I don't want to go. Am I going to Florida? No. Florida State? No. You know, so it does run in cycles, but we have to win. We haven't won really in 20 years. So let's look at it realistically. Why would you have come here? They're lucky they got Chance Robinson. They got Trader. Yeah, they didn't get Smith, but still, they're doing very, very well in the recruiting. So whether it's Florida kids or it's not Florida kids, after this season, if we do really well and keep this up, kids will be flocking to come to Miami. They don't want to live in South Florida and not come here. That's what's going to happen.
And then, Gary, one final question. I don't know if you could possibly talk to Charles Power about this from On 3, but what are your thoughts about Malachi Tony reclassifying? Do you think the coaches were fine with that? I mean,
I do, because, you know, they're going to be losing receivers. It's going to be a great position of need, and they need to bring talent in at that spot. So why not take a kid like Malachi Tony, who's doing really, really well in his junior season, and get him here early and see where he stands in the competition.
He could be the next. He could be the next Xavier Restrepo. He's got that kind of
for sure.
Kind of moves. He gets open. He finds seams. That's what you need. You know, it's not just straight line speed. He's just like a younger Restrepo.
I definitely think he'll probably redshirt, though. I definitely don't think he'll see the
redshirt. I mean, probably, but you never know. I mean,
he'll probably go through the same route Armando is. I mean, because the main reason why I wanted you to ask Charles Powers, because in reality, like for every Ryan Williams that's at Alabama, the 17-year-old playing really well, I mean, there's 10 different busts. I mean, you can go back to a guy like Eli Ricks, Tony Grimes. I mean, you could even go back to a guy like Donnell Harris, Gary, from years back from Gulliver, who was committed to Miami and then went to Texas A&M. So, I mean, it's a very high bust rate. But, I mean, obviously, I believe in our coaches. I believe in what we're doing. I mean, he's going to likely redshirt, but it would be interesting what you think Charles Power says about that, because, I mean, he's clearly not rated as high as Ryan Williams.
Well, they'll
Ryan,
have to re-rank them now. They're gonna. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see
for
real
sure.
soon. Well, what they think about it. But you're making a good point. But it's a little different for a guy like Blunt, who's a D lineman and a receiver. The receiver has a little easier road if they're good enough to get out there. But I don't think they'd be bothered if they redshirt him either. So we'll see what happens.
That'll be all, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you for being part of the show. All right, Bruce. We're going to go to the chat now and dive into some of these topics that have been being posted by our viewers. Christopher Wright, he says that I think you get better with more competitive practices while young players develop. And Chris, there is no question at all about that. And that's always been an agenda for Miami. And I can assure you it's an agenda for Mario as well. But let's not also minimize the big picture of this particular team. This is a team that is trying to develop fast so that when it gets to the end of the year, it is among the best in the country. And that's going to involve a lot of practice with good on good. And yeah, of course you want to develop your young players. And Mario's talked a lot about it here in the last week or two about developing the bottom half of the roster. But they're also looking at the big picture of trying to get good enough. And to me, that involves competition on Saturday. Bruce, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And if you're going to watch the practices, it's really competitive. I think it's not as competitive as it was back in the day, but it's because of time restrictions and how many times these guys could do stuff on their own, but or the hitting for that matter. But it's pretty violent down there. And Mario's, as I said before, the culture is clearly different. And I've seen guys like I've seen Nadkar, I've seen some of these guys, Shamar Kirk in practice making spectacular catches. They're not in the game that much, but these kids are pretty darn good. They really are. And so I think the culture was what's important, and the competitive practices are back the way, maybe not exactly what Mario wants, but it's pretty darn close. It's very violent watching these practices, and it's fun to watch.
All right, G Nice wants to talk about the tight ends a little bit. Very great observation on how Riley Williams has really stepped up his game this year. Elijah Arroyo is at his best right now. A great 1-2 punch. The freshman Lofton is capable of going in at any time and doing great things. So yes, the tight end H-back area for Miami is in a real good spot. G Nice, there's no doubt about it. Now
and a point of emphasis, because Mario knew that he had to get these tight ends involved. You saw how much bigger and faster and stronger Riley Williams is. He looks really good. Arroyo looks really good. Lofton looks a little thicker than I remember him in the spring, but
he's thick, yeah.
Very
impressive.
Very impressive.
All right, I'm seeing a lot of Sam Brown action here. Junior Barr, he's focusing on Sam Brown's drops. Eric Cooks is jumping on me for talking about Sam Brown showing up late, and the fact that I believe that has a lot to do with why he's having a hard time getting going. And Pain for Life says that Cam Ward has targeted Sam Brown enough. He's not catching the ball at a high rate. He's not a free agent, Matt Shodell's term for guys that are elite players. I can't disagree more. I'm going to tell you, I've seen the same thing. I've seen him drop a couple balls. I've seen him not get it done in Gainesville. I believe that he is as good as any receiver on this team from a physical standpoint. I think he's pressing. I think he came here to be showcased and to be the dude, and it's been very hard for him to do that because he came in late and because of how well Jacoby George and Restrepo and Isaiah Horton are playing. And I'll tell you something, I don't think Isaiah Horton was so thrilled that Sam Brown came into the program because he thought that was going to cut into his playing time. Well, they're all getting playing time, and it's up to them to shine. And, Sam Brown, I think, is in his head a little bit, and I think that's affecting his play. I think he's got to get out of his head. He's got to stop worrying about his resume and what he's supposed to be doing and take advantage of the opportunities that he is getting. And like Junior Barr again says, Horton is better than Brown. Well, so far this year, he has been better than Brown, Bruce. But there's still a lot of football left to be played. I saw a very concerted effort last week to get Sam Brown involved. The coaches know how good he is. They know why they brought him here. And now it's up to everybody just to collectively, quarterback, receiver, coaches, get this guy going so he can show everybody what he's capable of doing. And then I think some of these negative comments are going to go away.
Yeah, well, it's hard to have 58 to 60 catches for over 800 and something yards last year, all by luck. That's not luck. He's good. But right now, maybe he is a little jittery. Maybe he's not confident. There was one or two plays where he had to jump up to catch a ball. It was not an easy one. He had guys draped over him. Yeah, you'd like to see him catch everything thrown to him, but could be concentration. But look, last year we saw Kobe Young drop a few balls. He dropped a little middle screens. He dropped it. So, but no one ripped him to pieces. You just got to give him a little time. Now, if we go 2 or 3 more games, Gary, and he keeps dropping balls, he's going to be sitting. And then you'll see Nakar pass him, but Horton will be the starter. And Horton's had some bad luck. I think he had like 2 touchdowns called back on penalties so far this year. But there was one throw that he caught on the sideline. He had like a half a step before he hit the sideline. A perfect throw by Ward. He catches it. I mean, he's focused, this kid. There was the one down the middle. He jumped up and caught it at the 10-yard line. Horton is really stepped up his game. And I asked Kevin Beard after, during the spring, and he said he's almost there. He is really improved, and now he's really there. He's really a target they need to get to if Brown doesn't start performing better.
All right, J.R. Barr again, having an opinionated night here, but I like this one. Rankings now mean nothing. No team should be ranked until after week 5. Man, I can't argue with that thought. I don't think we're going to ever see that happen. The people that do the rankings like to be out there, but a lot of them have been kind of wrong, and you really don't get a feel for who's good and who's great until after you've played 3-4 games because of the level of scheduling at most schools.
But look at the top 10, Gary. There's 6 SE teams in the top 10. That's not going to stay like that because they play each other.
They play each other.
Right, they play each other.
Yeah, they'll start to separate. All right, Anthony Mendez points out Michigan State went portal heavy 2 years ago. They weren't able to sustain it. Florida State did it last year. They were not able to sustain it. Now Mario is in the portal game and has hit home runs all over the place this year. But Anthony, I assume where you're going with this is, can they do it again and again and again? And I feel strongly the portal is here to stay, and they're not going to go through this experience this year and bring in the level of players they have, which has been program altering, let's be honest, and not try to do it again next year and the year after either. So is it hard? Is it not hard? Bruce, it depends who's doing the evaluating and how good they are.
Yeah, but I also think that Mario doesn't necessarily want to have to keep doing this. His recruiting classes 2 years in a row are really good. This is really good. I think eventually he wants to use the portal as fill-in, but he doesn't want to use it as the core of his team. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. And because Norris Murray here, who loves seeing the young guys getting some reps, there is no question. They have had back-to-back top 10 recruiting classes. There is no question that they are looking to develop these guys. I mean, no question about it. However, it would be unfair to ask Justin Scott, for example, who's going to be great, I believe, to go out there and play like Simeon Barrow, who's been in college football for 4 years. I mean, that's not reality. It's not reality from a technique standpoint, from an experience standpoint, understanding the game, from a physical standpoint. Okay, now they get to bring Justin Scott along. Next year, he will have his moment. He will be out there, trust me. But it helps so much to be able to bring in these older guys through the portal and not have to rush the younger guys, which Miami's had to do for so long before they're ready to really be out there.
But you don't want to have guys sitting on the bench or getting ready to play, and then this following year, this is my chance, and they bring in a guy from the portal. That's going to cause guys to get out of here. And they did have a lot of guys leave, but I think Mario for the most part, I don't want to use the word cut them, but they were told you're not playing here anymore.
And it will happen again.
Some
guys will not make it, but I think there'll be less not making it from these last 2 recruiting classes.
Correct.
All right, this is worth commenting on. Mayday says Coach Nicholson will be the next Miami defensive coordinator once Guidry leaves. Mark my words. Number one, I would not expect Lance Guidry to be leaving so quickly. I don't know that he's on the radar for head coaching jobs right now.
Yeah.
He's just establishing himself as a defensive coordinator at this level. I expect him to be the DC at Miami for a very long time. That's my opinion.
He'll get more money, but I don't see him going anyplace.
Shannon Dawson, I do think will get him, some type of mid-level head coaching job at some point, because of usually those offense guys do, and is more cut a little bit more in that mold. But the other thing I'll say about this is, look, Coach Nicholson is, I've watched them, unbelievable linebacker coach.
Yes,
and it has had a very strong impact on the kids that are in his room. It couldn't be better with D-Nick. Trust me, he is right there, top of the line. But you would say the same thing about Jason Taylor. Also, I would say the same thing about Coach Jackson right now, the DB coach. I think he's having an enormous impact on this program. And success as a position coach does not always correlate to becoming a coordinator. It is it is 2 totally different things. It's like being a heart surgeon and a podiatrist at times. Okay. it's like, the D coordinator, man, it all runs through him. He's got to really be on point, and he's got a lot of responsibilities and has to make the calls on game day. The position coach just needs to improve the guys in his room and focus on the guys in his room. It's a big difference.
Right.
And just
maybe Nicholson will wind up going someplace at a smaller school and being a D coordinator, and then coming back to a major program.
Or maybe he will, maybe he won't. But the point I'm making is that it's not something to assume is going to happen. And if you're Mario Cristobal and Lance Guidry does leave, you have a responsibility to yourself, to your program, to your players, and the fans, everybody else, to go out and find yourself the best defensive coordinator you can find. That's not necessarily going to be a guy that has never done it before, even if he is one of your better assistant coaches. I would keep that in mind. And
they shouldn't have been naming guys who were never head coaches, like Randy and like Manny. They shouldn't have done it, but they did it. And now we paid the price.
But if D-Nick does have those type of aspirations, then yes, he may have to go somewhere else and cut his teeth as a DC. That's just my thoughts on that. All right, Mayday. We will find out as we get into ACC play. We're going to know if we are any good once we get into ACC competition. Bruce, I don't know what to make of the ACC. We watched Georgia Tech, play so well in that first game against Florida State, but then we see that Florida State's not worth diddly. And then they go to Syracuse and get beat by Syracuse. How good is Syracuse? Who the hell knows? Somebody else was asking about Louisville. Yeah, we're assuming Louisville's pretty good, and I think they are. Yeah. But until we get there,
they're well coached.
Oh, extremely well coached.
Yes.
But we don't really know yet how great they are. So Mayday, I get where you're going with this, and you might end up being right. Some of these ACC teams might rise to the occasion and be able to challenge Miami this year. But Bruce, I don't think we have a handle on what this conference really is yet.
No, we don't. And even if they're not so good, look at last year. At this time, we were 3-0. We were 4-0, and then we lose leg and egg against Georgia Tech at home, no less. So I told you a year ago that I'm not going to make predictions because we did that a couple of years ago. We went to Dallas and played LSU. You and I are all excited about our chances, and we laid an egg. So I'm out of the prediction business. All I know is if they keep playing like this, yes, I think they can go 12-0. I don't see anybody beating them unless they're just not ready to play or just a bad game. The refs take it away from us, fumbles, penalties, and dumb things. But again, I don't see that. This team looks so locked in. So, that's my thought on that. The ACC, you don't know.
You don't know. Yet. We also don't know about Ray Joseph. He's trying awfully hard to make himself known. It's not coming very easy, I'll tell you that. Yeah. We talked about it earlier in the show, catching punts at the 2-yard line. Come on, Ray. I get it, man. You didn't come here to do nothing, and you want to prove you belong and get it going. And I know you've probably got a lot of people in your ear. I don't know that he looks slow when he gets the ball. He's just not. He doesn't have the size and the. I don't know. I honestly don't really know how to put it. But
I kind of agree with him. I thought he was thinner last year and faster. Now he looks stockier and slower. He is getting caught by guys. He's quick and shifty. That's what he is. I think Brashard Smith had more overall talent and speed than him, but he's not here anymore. But that guy had a burst, and he was gone. I don't see Ray with that burst. I don't think he should be returning. I think maybe they should just go with Chris Johnson as the return guy. I don't know about the punt returner.
Well, got him. They got Chris Johnson back there for kickoffs. I mean, it's just nobody really returns kickoffs anymore because the kickers are too good.
Yeah,
they always put the ball in the end zone. Stewart wants to know if 17 teams in the ACC is going to prevent from Miami making the championship game. I don't think so. Not this year. I think if they lose, it's going to probably be once. I would think, and that should still, still be good enough to get.
I'm not worried about anybody. I used to look at the schedule and who plays who, and if Florida State beats Clemson, I don't care. We just run the table. We're going to the title game in the ACC.
Yeah. All right, let's go here. Offensive line not opening the holes when they, probably are a little too heavy. Running up the middle, and everybody makes that comment. Don't think I can argue with that thought. I mean, probably could do a few more outside runs. I would also look for them to maybe do some different things with some splits. They're having a hard time creating space for the running backs. So they got to make some adjustments, and I think they will. I'm expecting a big focus on
the running game this week. Yeah. I mean, the commentators were saying it too. It looks like the offensive linemen are just too close to each other. They got to get out a little bit further out, split it out a little bit. But again, if they're running between the tackles, then if you're the other team, you're just stuffing the middle. Your linebackers are stuffing the middle. And that's why they're constantly getting hit at the line of scrimmage. If you put Chris Johnson in the backfield and toss sweep to him or hand off, let him go outside, they'll get away from stuffing up the middle because that kid could turn the corner in an instant, and that's why they're throwing the ball out in the flat to him because who's going to be on him? A linebacker? That's a mismatch. Yeah, but I think there's a big emphasis on running the ball this week.
J.R. Barr's back. Cam Ward going for the Heisman, and that's great. I don't know, can Cam Ward, Bruce, in your opinion, can he mount this Heisman campaign that he clearly is mounting and the running game still be off the charts? I mean, look how much they were throwing in the first half of Ball State game to build his stat sheet, and you need that.
Do you really think they're doing that on purpose for his stats? I do. I don't. I can't believe he's that selfish. He doesn't seem he's that selfish.
I think they're very invested in Cam Ward, as they should be. Cam Ward has been the world to this program, and he came here, and it's working. They were talking about him as fourth or fifth round draft pick being projected in this year's draft. So when he was sitting there evaluating, that's why he's here in the first place, because the NFL didn't want him. Right. They are making sure the NFL wants Cam Ward. Now we're hearing first round talk after 3 games, which is absolutely amazing. It's such a small sample size. But you are seeing, you took a kid that had the talent that this kid has, and you brought him to a better team, which Miami's an enormously better team with a better plan, a better everything than Washington State, and he is just blossoming. I mean, he's the talk of the country right now with a very small sample size, Bruce.
Yeah, but I think he's also giving what the defense – he's taking what the defense gives him. If they're geared up to stop the run, of course he's going to throw the ball 35, 40 times. I would too. And that's why they got to get the running game going, because they shouldn't have to rely on him to throw 35, 40 times a game. If they could open up the running game, then they could play action all day long, and maybe we'll see some of those bombs that the other guy was talking about, because he's not really throwing deep that often. But, again, I don't care if he wins the Heisman. I want us to win every game, and I want him to get drafted by my New York Giants. That's all I care about.
But it is very important for Miami football that Cam Ward
it is.
Accomplishes the goals that he came here for. This is a season and an example that is going to live for many, many years. People are going to remember Cam Ward came to Miami in the portal and became one of the top couple players in college football very quickly. And that's
don't you think he cares more about winning the title or winning the ACC than the Heisman?
Yes, I do. But I do think that I use the term walk and chew gum. I do think he could do both at the same time.
He's doing it.
And I think that his success is going to have a residual effect for many years to come when they go recruit other guys.
Yeah.
All right. Aside from Cam Ward, the running back room is a big topic of conversation because of how well everybody's in there playing. I mean, they haven't even gotten started with Damian Martinez yet. He came here to be a dude. He didn't come here to carry the ball a few times a game and not be a primetime player. I mean,
3 carries for 3 yards.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I just didn't want to.
I happen to think Fletcher's running better than him.
3 carries. 3 carries for 4 yards. You got Mark Fletcher looking better than he ever has coming off the injury. You obviously have AJ Allen, who is like an afterthought at running back right now because of Jordan Lyle's emergence. But look how well he was playing late in the game. That kid earned more playing time.
Yes.
If you come out in the fourth quarter and play the way you played on Saturday, you earned yourself more playing time. I'm expecting to see AJ Allen in the game earlier this week. Now, that said, okay, you brought Damian Martinez here to be a dude. I mean, he was a dude at Oregon State. He didn't come to Miami to sit on the bench. Like they tried to get Sam Brown going last week. I am expecting to see them try to get Damian Martinez going in that way this week at South Florida. How about that? It's a must. It would be a bad look for a kid at that level to come, just like I just talked about with Cam Ward and how there's going to be a residual effect on on him, in recruiting. It would be bad if Damian Martinez did not have a season at Miami this year that showcases his abilities to the next level as well. I think just like I expect to see it continue with Sam Brown, I think we'll see it.
But I think they're working on their the blocking scheme because there's something they're not firing out. There really aren't that many holes for this kid. He gets hit and, he had a couple of big runs where he knocks people over.
The Florida game.
Yeah, the Florida game. He looked much better than the last 2 games. More touches for Chris Johnson. Yeah, I agree with that. He's lightning in a bottle, that kid.
But how do you give him more touches? Like, how do you get him more touches? How do you take care of Martinez and Fletcher and Lyle and Allen and then get to Chris Johnson? It's almost impossible. Chris Johnson.
I understand that. You can still line him up. You can line him in the slot and still have Martinez in the backfield. You could do multiples. You don't have to put one in and take the other one out. Let him sit in the slot.
And they went to the young guy backfield last week. I like that. But it's just going to be very difficult for the coaches to give everybody the juice that maybe their ability, warrants. And that's part of
when I say Chris Johnson, I mean, if he gets 3 touches, he should have 5 or 6. I'm not saying he should go from 3 to 20. Nobody's saying that. Yeah. He's a kid. He doesn't have the experience these other guys have. But when he's in the game, though, he's causing problems because they're keying on him. They just can't let him run free like that. He goes out in the flat. He's got a linebacker, the first person that comes near him, and he's past him in 2 seconds. So this is a great problem to have. We talked about on the offseason about Dawson's got his, a little bit of a gun to his head, but he's mixing it up right now. There's nobody that's stopping this offense so far.
Part of Miami getting back to being Miami is you're going to have very good players that are going to have to wait to play a role in this program. I mean, it's the way it always was. And
the way it always was, Gary. You're right.
Thank God back in the 80s and 90s that there was no transfer portal. It's all I got. You
mean we might have lost Kelvin Harris? He might have transferred out.
We would have seen a lot of guys transferring out.
12-0.
Now, I haven't vetted this stat that Raf Lopez is whipping out here, but only 2 runs have been short of scrimmage line all season. That could be true. I don't remember too many of them. Listen, this is a good offensive line. This is not a bad offensive line. Just because they're struggling a little bit to open holes in the running game doesn't mean that they're a bad offensive line. So they're going to get better, and I think we're going to see more big runs as the season goes forward. I don't.
Yeah, I think they made some adjustments with the line this week. I just do. And everybody's back, right? They're all going to be back this week. So the starters are back, all 5 of them. Okay.
All right. Rav, again, big Riley Williams fan. I'll join you. He struggled a little bit as a true freshman, dropped some balls. No big deal. But yeah, he's the real deal this year. He's catching the ball. He's getting open. But again, getting a couple opportunities a game. No different than Chris Johnson. I don't see that changing.
Unless Arroyo gets hurt, which has happened in the past. But look, he's made himself a lot better, and it shows.
Anthony Mendez wants to know if AJ Allen's going to get above Martinez on the depth chart. I don't see it. I think that's a culture killer right there. Damian Martinez is very good, guys. I mean, you haven't really seen it a lot yet. And, you've seen it in a couple spots and spurts, just like Sam Brown. These are proven really good players in college football. They brought them here for a reason, even though they had some other good players at those positions. At some point, when they get their opportunity, they are going to show that ability. I say, just have a little bit of patience.
Look what happened when they got Charleston Rambo. They said he stunk at Oklahoma, and he came here. He was great. He's just got to get a little more confidence.
Yeah, I mean, just continue here with Raph. I mean, yes, Sam Brown, just like Martinez, they're going to have a huge game at some point, and then the haters will be crickets. I totally agree with that. Kane for Life says the current roster's perfect. Still upset they didn't land Jeremiah Smith. Man, could you imagine if they had Jeremiah Smith on this team too? Wow. The roster's not perfect.
They wouldn't have had Sam Brown if he had committed to Miami. That's for sure.
Yeah, but roster's not perfect.
Right.
They're making very good progress. It's step by step. They still don't have as much depth as I know Mario would like to have.
Who's played him better, who looks better, physically looks better? Ahmad Moten. He couldn't do a damn thing. He would just get the hand fight at the line of scrimmage. Now he's penetrating, he's hustling, he's running to the ball. He's made himself a better football player. I like what he's done so far. You agree?
Richard Jackley wants to come at me a little bit here. It says, I don't know anything about scheme. Richard, you see the email address at the bottom, okay? Use it. Come on the show. We'll bring you on, and you can teach us all about the scheme, everything you know about scheme that we don't know. Otherwise, shut the hell up, please. Seriously. Like we have too much fun on this show for that kind of stupidity. Okay. But I'm happy to give you a voice, happy to bring you on to teach us whatever you can.
Explain exactly what he means by that.
Yeah, what the hell is he talking about?
What doesn't Gary know? What do you know that he doesn't know?
Well, what about and when we've sat here talking about scheme, I don't pretend to be Shannon Dawson and start drawing X's and O's on the screen. Probably could find some technology that would allow us to go chroma key here and start drawing X's and O's on the screen but no, that's not what we what we do here for sure. All right, well, I think we've pretty much hit on all the appointed topics for this week. I want to thank everybody for being a part of the show. Everybody came on the show. Would like to see more of you guys, including you, Richard Jackley, in future weeks.
We'll talk scheme about the Virginia Tech game because that's their next game, right after this. Next Friday.
Yeah. So just shoot us anytime, even during the week. Email us at CaneSport@yahoo.com. We will get you hooked up to be among our lineup of guests if you would like to come on the show. Otherwise, we love all the questions and comments on the comment panel. And anyway, I just want to thank everybody for listening. The show's been very successful this year, and it's because of you guys. And the fact that you listen allows us to do what we do. And if you are on YouTube right now and you like this show, like this channel, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It does help us with the algorithms in growing our audience. If you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please, please, please. We want to bring this entire fan base together. This is a special season. Come on over to CaneSport, get yourself a membership, join our fans. They're in the message boards all day long. We have enormous message board traffic. Our whole staff does everything we can do every minute of every day to make your fan experience the best that it could possibly be. We're going on 35 years now of CaneSport. Something else, Bruce. Yeah, remember that, man. Remember the early days?
I remember getting those newspapers every week.
Yeah, you were there. You were there during the early days. But anyway, yeah, please come be a part of CaneSport.com. Your subscriptions literally keep this engine moving. So for Matt Shodell, Bruce Warner, all of our callers and viewers, whatever you want to call them, fan participants, I'll call them tonight. I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for being part of the show. We'll see you next time, everybody.